just moments.
Yeah. With the Weavers, they were Morgan Freeman. They were part of that secret society of Weavers.
Oh yeah,
Hey, good evening to the inaugural viewing of, what is this, Mentality. Sitting here with my good brother, Terrence Howard. Here tonight to introduce you all to Mr., or should I say, Dr. Terrence Deshaun Howard, His Excellency. We'll talk about that title in just a minute. Here to introduce you all to my brother in a different way for the first time. This brother is brilliant. You know him from Hollywood, A-list actor. You know him from Empire. You know him from Pride. You know him from Iron Man. You know, the list goes on and on and on. You know, you've seen him in Memphis as DJ, you know, whooping tricks. You know how it goes. But this brother is, I mean, there's so much more to this brother. Actually had the privilege of running into him a little bit over a year ago. Happened to be on the movie set. I was doing some extra work, and then I elevated to a stand-in. And I overheard my brother speaking to somebody. He kept saying numbers, -2, -3, 1, 2. And, you know, I was ear hustling a little bit, but I couldn't figure out what he was talking about. And so then eventually on a break, I got up and I walked over to where he was. He was there no longer, but I was seeing on a piece of paper, this brilliant man had actually written out the periodic table from memory. But not only did he draw the periodic table, he drew the periodic table in the form of a spiral. And I had never seen it like that before. And so while I'm looking at it, he walks over and starts to explain it to me. And it's from that moment in that conversation that, you know, history is being rewritten as we talk. And so, you know, without any further ado, I would love to reintroduce you all to Terrence Howard.
Hey, y'all. I'm Terrence Howard. I'm just trying to be alive and be as good as I possibly can, the same way you guys are trying to live. It's a rough world. And then when you meet individuals that you have a kindred spirit with, and the spirit that we shared, Jeff, was the spirit of truth, the curiosity of trying to figure out what matters more in the world and what was most important. Most of the things that people are living on and the fundamentals we're working from, you know, are fairy tales.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to be willing to pull back the skin of the most delicate parts of your heart and your nature in order to find out what's really underneath, what is the basis and foundation. And that's what has been our relationship. No matter what the cost, we still dig in and see where the truth lies. And that's what I love.
Right on, brother. And this is a part of you that I know the rest of the world deserves to meet. When you came to Morgan State University, almost this time, it was a week ago, the weekend of July 11, 2022. And we had a phenomenal day, you know, but everybody who encountered you that day, their mind was blown. I heard it 15 times if I heard it once. I had no idea what people said repeatedly. I had no idea. The children. Terrence, we started that. For those who don't know, invited Terrence Howard up to Morgan State University's campus last summer. And it was a carryover from our conversation on set that day. And he said to me as he walked away, because the director came and got you to shoot a scene. And Terrence stopped before he left. He said, "This is the conversation I've been waiting to have." And so it culminated with him coming up to Morgan to speak. And he not only did he come to speak in a public forum, but he also did 2 back-to-back workshops for children who are part of an aviation program, you know, on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And these children, they were excited, not because they recognized Terrence from Iron Man, but, you know, that too, but also because of what he was presenting to them. This brother had put together, I don't know how many models you had, but he had bins and bins and bins full of these models that he himself put together. And these are mathematically and scientifically sound models that he started teaching the children from. And then here's the highlight for me, I guess all of it was highlighting, but this part right here, brother, when we got into that room full of the chemists, the physicists, the mathematicians, all of these learned, you know, we had people who were at the patent office for 20 years, right? We had, the room was stacked. And this brother made his presentation. I gave them one order. I said, if he sounds like he's full of it, tell him he's full of it. But if he sounds like what he's saying is on point, tell them that too. And say it loudly, whichever one you're saying. By the end of that day, everybody's mind was blown and they said this brother was on to it. Talk to us a little bit how you felt that day, man. I mean, because you were full of energy.
Yeah, well, I have been, for the longest time, the hardest thing when you have a revelation or a disruptive line of thinking, it's very hard to approach people because you get shut down, because a lot of times people are very closely related to, closely connected to, the things that they were taught as children. Whether it's true or false, you still have an emotional attachment to it. Yeah. And when you start talking about things where you challenge their foundations and their fundamentals, they take that as a personal affront.
Yeah.
And they don't realize what you're trying to do is pull back the lie that's been hiding the truth from their eyes.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's we who keep this up because we have an emotional attachment to the people that taught it to us.
Right.
So when I talked to those students that day, and their minds were open.
Yes.
They had no preconceived ideas. When I was able to explain to them that what we call our fundamentals, the Platonic solids, that they're not the end all and be all.
That's right.
That there are other approaches to defining the thing that we call space and time and existence. And it just opened up their minds, and I could see them picturing, changing the world, and you introduce tangential flight to someone who's never seen tangential flight. And for you all that's out there, tangential flight is the ability to fly around your own center of mass. It's something that had never been accomplished with 6 props until, my team did that.
Wow.
And so introducing that to the children was really great. But then in talking to the scientists in the room, that I loved, because I considered it was going to be war.
Yeah.
I figured, it was going to be war. I was like, okay, so I wanted to win with convincing argument. I didn't want to win with any showboating or anything. I just wanted to be convincing argument. And I utilized the space as best I could.
Yeah.
And to watch them be silent throughout it. And even at the very end of it, still silent.
Still silent. Absolutely.
Still silent, registering.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it will turn into in the future.
Yeah.
But we made our mark that day.
Yes, sir. I mean, and you held your own, brother. You came prepared. And, y'all don't know, but we had conversation before then. And he was ready for war. I'm like, brother, I feel you, warrior spirit. It's better to be a warrior in the garden, than a gardener in the war. So yes, keep that warrior spirit but hopefully prayerfully and ideally we won't need it. And sure enough, they were receptive.
Yeah.
They co-signed your work. And we're going to talk a little bit about the tangential flight in a minute, but let's go back to the naysayers. You put together a montage. You got a clip of people who are quite dismissive. To quote the great philosopher Dave Chappelle, he says you should never call people crazy. He said, because it's dismissive. And what I see in this reel that we're going to show in just a second is that a bunch of people who I feel are not qualified to evaluate any of your work, whether we're talking about your work in Hollywood or your work as a scientist. They can't question you. Nobody's qualified to, yet and still each and every one of them has something negative to say about you, about your work, and they actually tried to ridicule you with laughter. My background's in clinical psychology. I'm trained to determine if people are mentally ill, colloquially called crazy. And over a year,
That's me.
And over a year worth what you found, I haven't seen anything crazy about you, brother. But I want us to check out this clip so people can see for themselves the type of dismissing that you have withstood. And you've carried it with grace, brother.
It's truth. Whatever, you got to think everything.
We put the words at the bottom of the screen so we can all better understand it. Good luck to all of us.
What's that?
Well, I'm going to talk about this since we're here.
Go ahead. Okay.
Now, a couple years ago, I did an article for the Rolling Stones, and they said I was crazy because I was telling them that the square root of 2 was a rational number. I'm going to be able to prove that gravity is only an effect and not a force. I'm putting something on YouTube where I will build the planet Saturn without gravity and build the Milky Way galaxy without gravity.
Did you also say you're getting your star?
I tried to change it.
Right. Aren't you getting a star? Rebuilding the universe. You go, well, you get a star.
But get a load of this guy, Terrence Howard. Actually, there's a lot of info here about Terrence. He's invented a new math. He calls it Terryology.
Putting a microphone in front of Terrence Howard's face is like taking mushrooms. I mean, the way he's talking, you almost just start seeing patterns. It's like,
does 1 × 1 equal 2?
We can never get to 2 if 1 × 1 equals 1.
You once told me that I was in another dimension. I think you're in another dimension.
I have to look up his reasoning because it was absolutely crazy.
I'm sure it makes plenty sense. Terrence Howard has a history of being just totally logical.
Yeah.
Like,
You know, so the naysayers, person in that video could touch any. They couldn't light your candle, brother. You know,
but it's a blessing when somebody calls you crazy, because it's just the rite of passage. The first time anytime someone introduces a radical idea or a change in the status quo, it's always met with ridicule.
Yeah.
Then it's met with, okay, maybe it's possible. Then it becomes, oh yeah, that's very self-evident.
Right.
They did it to Galileo when he spoke about the heliocentric nature of our solar system, even though he probably ended up paying for it with his life. They did it to Giordano Bruno, you know, when he tried to introduce the same wave conjugations that I've introduced. The only thing he missed is he still had straight lines inside of it. He was still held back by the false idea of straight lines, but being called crazy, being associated with something that's outside of their method of understanding, that's really them saying, wow, you're a little more than I expected. Right. And so since I can't register it, I'm just going to dismiss it as crazy. But I understand that that's part of this walk. Gotcha. I didn't think that coming here and stepping outside of the box, the biggest mistake I made was I tried to use my platform as an actor to share this message. Excuse me. And they didn't want me to be an individual. They wanted me to be the character that they had paid for me to be. Yeah. And I'm like, no, that's not my walk. I came here, you know, this platform is great as an actor, but it's a platform for me to do more on. You know, I consider being an actor like an emotional whore. I've told you that before. Yes. You're an emotional prostitute. You think that they like you for what you're doing, but you're trading all of your personal memories. You're trading all of your hopes and dreams. Your body doesn't know that it's not real. Your body is going through all of this stuff, and the producers, they don't care about you and what you're doing. They don't care what you've gone through. Even Screen Actors Guild doesn't have for actors mental health care. Wow. You have to pay for your own mental health care, you know, if you have a personality conflict, you know, as a result of all the characters you've played. And what happens when you really go deep into a character, you lose yourself because you try and put your clothes back on and that character walks off with your life. Ooh. You know, and you're just being part of a gangbang. If they like you, they trade you off to all of their producer buddies, and they'll have you turning the same trick, and you got to act like it's the first time every time. You got to act like you love it every time, but you might as well just be on the corner. So I didn't want to stay on that platform just as an actor, even though as a child, I thought I wanted to become an actor because my mother loved my little brother, and she wanted him to be an actor. Okay. And I thought if I became an actor, I would get her affection. Yeah. And when she was passing, she told me that, you know, Terry, I always knew you were going to be fine. The reason I had to put so much time into Antonio is because he had asthma and his father wasn't so close to him and all of these things. And that meant a whole lot to me. But once she passed, I realized, wow, I never wanted to be an actor. I never wanted to be up here selling my emotions. And, you know, what did I need to, what did I really want to be? What was I supposed to be? Because if I had followed my course as a scientist from the beginning, my mother wouldn't have passed. I would have been able to fix the cancer and the problems that she had.
Wow.
I would have known about the Brzezinski Clinic in Texas, where they found that people that had cancer were lacking particular enzymes. And this Dr. Brzezinski, a Polish doctor working out of Texas in the 70s, he began synthesizing these enzymes and peptides and putting them into the patients. And all of these patients were terminally ill patients that they had given up on, you know, 6-month-old infants who, you know, had brain tumors and they were supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
And the FDA had 6 different grand juries to try and indict this man. And every time they did that, he had his patients that came in there, patients that were supposed to be dead 25 years ago, that are sitting there with their entire families, saying that I am here as a result of this man's work. But if I had followed my course, my mother would still be here. But again, that's like the time traveler, you know, he developed a time machine so he can go back and get his wife, but it was his wife dying that led him to build the time machine. So no matter what, he was always going to be repeating that. And I had to recognize that the universe doesn't make any mistakes. My mother was here long enough to do what she needed to do, but her passing reminded me that I had more work to do and that I was not fulfilling my true capacity. And so I stepped out to do what I needed to do, and that's with the world of science. That's just trying to illuminate and elevate our species so that we can become balanced with the universe. That, you know, there's 4 levels of species. A level 1 society has complete control over his planet. And the resources, and are able to balance with it. A level 2 society would have complete control over their sun and the solar system. A level 3 society would have complete control of the galaxy and its energy and able to work with it. And level 4 society, civilization would have complete control over the universe and know how to work within it. Well, that's not possible when you have imaginary straight lines in a world, in the universe, where if all energy in the universe is expressed in motion, and all motion is expressed in waves, and all waves are curved. So it's like, where did they get the straight lines to make the platonic solids? If every action in the universe has an equal and opposite reaction, which we know it does, and therefore the greater the action, the greater the reaction, the greater the reaction, the greater the resistance, the greater the resistance, the greater the curvature. Therefore, everything has curvature. So where did they get the straight lines to make the platonic solids?
Let me jump back. Just give me a second on this one, brother. You said a lot. We've covered a lot of ground in a little bit of time, and I'm just like, we ain't got but an hour? You know what I mean? And I mean, we've covered a lot of ground over the last 16 months or so, brother, but you covered more ground in that last statement. Let me go back for a second, if you don't mind. You were speaking about the emotionality of acting, right? And please forgive me if I'm bringing the conversation back to a place, but I think this is very important because a lot of people don't understand that part of the game. They don't understand what it costs, right? And I think y'all don't know, but he's guest lectured in my personality theories class. And my students, they loved what he brought because he brought the psychology of acting to the real world. And that's what we don't understand. We don't know how much it costs you all. We just know that it looks good. We get excited when we see y'all walking down the street, you know what I mean? But that toll, and you said it, you know, playing different personalities, and you come back to try to put your clothes on, and the character done walked off with them. What do you do to maintain yourself in the midst of all of that?
Well, for me, the thing that always brought me back is like, I love languages. So like right now, I've got Pimsleur on my phone, and I've got like 25 different languages that I'm working on, you know. And You know,
multi-genius.
No, I don't have full control over all of the languages, but I've been working on them for 5 years.
Yeah.
So I'm building this reservoir of knowledge, of understanding, you know, and seeing the historicity of where these languages and the etymology of where the words have actually come from, and able to find, like, I want to get to Sanskrit. But by me doing that, the characters aren't doing that. So the moment that I get back into my languages, you know, it frees me. I'm back into me, and I hold my own space again.
That's like the spinning top. Blocking the name of that movie with
From Inception.
Inception, right? That's how you know. It's like, I'm back on my languages. I'm
back
good.
here. I'm back here.
That's beautiful, fam. And I mean, you talk to me a little bit. I mean, almost every time I speak to you, your children are present. You know, and that's amazing to me. And people, again, this is an aspect of you people probably don't know and probably would never realize. But I constantly hear you giving game to your children, you know, playing games with your children, constantly in communication. And you told me one time that because I heard you were talking, you were telling one of your sons to write with both hands.
Yeah.
What's the method? What's the reason behind it? You know, I could get it as a psychologist, but talk to us.
Well, when I was examining the human body, and, you know, the digits are fingers.
Yeah.
They have the same nerves that run into our teeth. The same exact nerves. Our teeth would be fingers. They're an example. That's why you don't go and let them take your teeth out to put somebody else's pretend smile on you. But also with the human mind, over 60% of our mind is geared towards our digits, our hands. So if you're only writing with one hand, you're losing half of your brain's potential.
Wow.
And if our legs behave the way our hands behave, where only one leg was dominant, then we would be crippled. And so I started writing when I was a teenager. I started writing backwards first I started writing with my left hand. Then I was like, why am I only writing in one direction? And what I found when I switched from a right hand to my left hand, that it was a different personality. It was a different kind of writing. It was like my brain had reversed itself. But then when I started writing backwards, it polarized. Wow. And so now when I started writing backwards with both hands, and now I had 4 people, because you know, you got your mom and your daddy in you, but now I'm like, I'm about to bring my grandparents into me, because they're going to be. I love it. As it's like if a child gets to sit in the front seat in the car, and he's so happy he's sitting in the front seat, and here I am looking out the window. Now all those other personalities in the back seat, they want to sit there too. And they're all looking for that opportunity. So when I approach something, you know, now I'm approaching it from 4 different perspectives. Yeah. You know, and when I'm writing, if I want to change a character, change the perception of where I'm coming from, I change hands. And when I watch my children, they're so excited. They don't know that most people just write from, you know, left to right. They don't understand that, because I make them write all their numbers forwards and backwards with both hands, and I do make them. Yeah. I do make them. But the good side about it is, you know, my son Kieran, who's 8 years old, we could call him on the phone, and I can ask him, you know, what's the square root of 5? And he'll say 2.23, 60, 66, 7, 74, 94, 99, 79.
You said he's 8?
He's 8 years old. Yeah. And then I'll ask him, what's the square root of that? And he'll say it's 1.495348781221. What's the square root of that? 1.222844 544 99. If I ask him what's pi, you know, 3.14159265 8935 793. What's the square root of that? 1.772. He will run it down, so we can go through all of the numbers from 1 to 10, from 1 to 10, and he will do the square root, and then he will do the square root of that. Because I've challenged him with that. And when he gets it right, I'm like, okay, now let's go. Now we can go over to Knoxberry Farm. And he looks forward to it. And my 6-year-old, it's just starting to memorize the square root of 2 and getting that down. And I'm like, as harsh as this seems, when other people are, if somebody was watching, why are you gonna, my ex used to ask, why are you having him memorize these things when he don't know what they are? I was like, because it's teaching him to organize his brain.
Yeah.
And when he has to write it backwards with his other hand, it makes him be in control of where he's going so he can predict. And no matter what, he's comfortable. No matter what the circumstance, he's comfortable. And I believe you're supposed to challenge your children and make them stronger. You know, if you fast for 4 days, DNA wakes up and other parts of you become alive.
That's right.
So all of these things is to build the next version, a better version of me.
Wow. And see, again, covered a whole lot of ground, and you know, forgive me if I'm going backwards in this, if I'm hustling backwards with this, but you know, when you talk about the different personalities, just a point is, so people see, I told y'all he was crazy. He said he got 4 personalities.
No.
See, it's just the Western model of personality that tells us that we have, that personality is defined as a relatively stable set of traits and characteristics that go across your lifetime. My understanding from the African-centered worldview is that we've got multiple personalities and all of them are to be mastered. And they show up as our Orisha or the Neteru, if you're talking about Egyptian society, the Aposun, whatever it is, they show up in these different characters, right? That we sometimes call deities. And it's for you to be able to master the energy of all of them. So I'm a Capricorn, but that doesn't mean I shouldn't master the energy of a Gemini, a Libra, or Taurus. You feel me? So, and so that's what I'm saying, all that to say he ain't tripping, right?
No.
And then the other part of it is this though, brother.
I mean, the people that's tripping are the ones that their left hand, you know, it doesn't have any function.
That's all it.
They can't control it.
Right.
Those are the ones that's tripping.
And it's less
because they're crippled and they don't recognize that. Like every child is born with synesthesia.
What is synesthesia?
Synesthesia is the ability to have more than one sense recognition for a particular object.
Gotcha.
Like, you know, when you see the color blue, do you hear the sound to it?
Right. Dr. Van Sertima said this one time to me. You know, Dr. Van Sertima, he's from Guyana. He's a world-renowned historian. He said that when he was young, running through the jungles, he used to be able to hear the light. He said he could actually see he could hear like a snake moving in the bushes, but he couldn't like see it because it's pitch black, but he could see the light of it as well from the sound.
Well, when we're born, everyone has that synesthesia, but our most advanced sense is our sense of taste. That's why children put things in their mouth, because they have an expectation of what this is going to taste like, what this shape feels like. But when we stop them from being able to do these things, that synesthesia dies according to atrophy. I was in the 3rd grade and I remember saying to the teacher, that's the prettiest sound of blue I have ever heard. And she said, the blue doesn't have a sound to it, doesn't have a sound to it. So then I kept arguing that it did have a sound to it. So they sent me to the remedial school.
Wow, because you were
from
advanced.
that point, because I had I heard the color of things. But that's what allowed me to pick up the periodic table, because I didn't see the periodic table as, you know, these elements that's always been here. I look at the periodic table and I see the rainbow, you know, and just so you guys understand, just so I give a better picture of it. If you look at hydrogen is yellow in that center. You go into the next octave, that hydrogen has now become carbon. It's also yellow. You go into the next octave, that carbon has become silicone. It's the centerpiece. It's a +4. The lithium that was in the very first octave, the second octave, you know, the lithium becomes sodium in the next octave. The sodium becomes potassium. The potassium becomes rubidium. The rubidium becomes cesium. The cesium becomes francium. But it's the same exact tone, just doubled. And that's all that's happening. The universe is based upon it's only one substance in the universe, and it's a noble gas that's called alphanon. A guy named a scientist by the name of Walter Russell defined this in 1926. But that alphanon, that noble gas, wrapped itself around itself. So the very first wrap is alphanon. The second wrap is betanon. The third wrap is gammanon. Then the fourth wrap, helium. Then the next wrap around there, it's now neon. The next wrap after that, you've got argon. The next wrap after that, you've got krypton. So but these are the noble gases that's squeezing on each other. So all of the elements are just moments and conditions of pressure, different changes of pressure and motion conditions. And they're all just doubling. It's just the same tones. That rainbow shows you all of the elements. And so you can mix the elements the same way you mix colors. And they don't want you to know that, because then you will know, and this is going to make them angry. Like if they wanted to break hydrogen from oxygen, you know how they do that? They use electrolysis, or they use some chemical process that has a caustic effect. Do you know, instead of smashing the hydrogen and oxygen to make it break apart, you can tickle the oxygen? And you know what it's tickled by? What's oxygen's natural mate? It's beryllium. If oxygen hears the sound of beryllium, I don't care what bond it has, it will break that bond and bond with beryllium, because here's lithium is +1, beryllium is +2, boron is +3, then you get carbon, then you got nitrogen as a -3, oxygen as a -2, and fluorine as a -1. So the +2 of beryllium is the equal and opposite mate of oxygen. So the moment you introduce the sound of beryllium, oxygen will break that bond. But you could also introduce the sound of magnesium, which is beryllium in the next octave, or introduce the sound of calcium, which is in the next octave, or rubidium strontium. You can introduce that and be able to separate hydrogen from oxygen.
Just that simple.
With frequency.
So let me pull us out of this chemistry lesson just a bit, brother.
I'm sorry. No
sorry at all, because any chemist out there who just heard that understands, or should be seeking to understand exactly what you were just saying. It's gonna be kind of like a little jokey segue, forgive me in advance, but you said you could tickle oxygen. So how about, I heard that you did the Elmo slide, like you was on Sesame Street at one point in time.
Yes, I did. I danced. I talked with Elmo.
Yeah, man. You taught the word incognito.
Incognito.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. And that's what I was
thinking about incognito.
And I was wondering if you was gonna slip. I was watching that like, boy, you better not slip and say incognito, man, talking to Elmo. And it's crazy though, because I said that word to you earlier, at the airport. I ran right past you and didn't see you. But yeah, so, I want to use that just to segue a little bit, just a little bit of levity. But at the same time, brother, that brilliance that you possess, it's been recognized. No, you don't possess it. Forgive the word.
It's not brilliance though. It's I understand simple things. I understand the fundamentals.
Brilliance is just light.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. You're shining. Can't deny that. And it ain't because you got like Vaseline on your forehead or some shea butter or something. You're shining from that light that's within, fam. You know what I mean? And it's okay. You won't get me to not acknowledge that.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it, brother. And because you deserve that. You know what I mean? And you said it to me the first day we met. You said, because people only see me as an actor. And it's time for that to change, because you have so much to offer this world. You're offering this world so much. And people often have to keep others in a box that makes them comfortable, that keeps them feeling okay with themselves. It's time to kick that open. And so I wanted to segue in acknowledging your work.
Thank you.
Your very first patent, brother. That thing is amazing. You know how I know it's amazing? I mean, I read through it and I understood and I comprehended what I could. But at the same time, when you look at that cited by section on that, and it's like 23 different companies or organizations or whatever that have cited.
All have $100 billion corporations built off of my patent. If you go and look at their patents, I did a patent in 2009. I was staying in Alphabet City in New York. And if you ever been in Alphabet City, it's just bricks everywhere. You can't see nothing but all of these. So I'm thinking, Dad, wouldn't it be great if these windows weren't just windows, if they were actually screens that you could see outside if you wanted to, or you could also have a remote camera somewhere else where if you're sitting inside the room and if I had a central processing unit that's up above me, and this unit is sending down infrared or radio waves to measure where I'm at, and therefore where the remote camera is, whether it's in Iceland or whatever, when you go to the window, it has a proximity awareness of where you are, so the view changes depending where you are. And I was like, I could sit here in the middle of the living room and the camera could be on the bottom of an airplane, and I can feel like the house is an airplane.
And that's the VR
So
part.
I built this patent called the World of Windows. It was to merge virtual reality to enhance the sensory experience. Spent $260,000 getting the patent worldwide, and then went through my ex-wife filed a restraining order against me. So the patent, you have to pay the maintenance fees, and I couldn't go to the house or call or do anything. So when the $536 maintenance fee came by for the patent,
just
to maintain that patent, the patent was lapsed, so it was abandoned. And immediately AT&T, Hewlett Packard, Stanford, all of these
Sony, IBM,
all of these companies grabbed my patent and built off it. Now that patent today has earned over $3 trillion. Over $3 trillion that I can't, that they're running off and having a great time. And they saw Terrence Howard there. They knew it was still my patent, but none of those companies have come and said, hey, when they did the Black Lives Matter thing, nobody came and said, hey, you know what, you've done this for us. Let's give you a piece of this. They gave me nothing from it. But what it has done, so when people sit up and say that, he's an actor, what business does he have in technology? Well, most of your AR, VR world is built off of my patents.
Legitimately.
Everybody, your home alarm system, all of that is built off of my patents. So it actually ended up being a blessing. So when I invented tangential flight with linchpin and unlimited bonding, now people can't sit up and say, oh, it's a crackpot, no, because none of those other people have patents that's made that much money. And it's still earning money. The patent would still be viable until 2028, But when I built a lot of the other work off of that patent. They didn't understand the parameters of it. They didn't understand how to truly utilize it.
Yeah.
So now everything they built off of my patent, I have priority over their work. So I can take anything that they built off of my patent and use it because I have priority.
So you have priority and understanding of it.
And understanding.
And that's something that they can't. I mean, they could take it, duplicate it, carbon copy it, manipulate it to the degree that they can, but they can't advance it.
Yeah.
I love
That's like them having a ray gun and using it to hold flowers in it. They don't understand.
Don't understand it. And it's probably better that they don't.
No.
And so now watch this though, brother. So I mean, so many places I want to go with that. Now we're going to show that. I don't know if we've shown the linchpin video just yet, but if not, hold on for 1 second for us. Because the other phenomenal part of the game is this. You have said on several occasions that you are interested in and desiring to benefit historically Black colleges and universities with your science and your technology.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is the things that I've discovered and have covered in patents. These are the fundamentals that challenge the Platonic solids, that challenge the Heisenberg uncertainty principle and Schrodinger's cat and the Planck. It challenges all of the science. Now, the truth is, because we have the patent and own the trademark for tangential flight, you cannot produce a tangential flight vehicle without coming and getting a license from us. You can't teach about linchpin or tangential flight at any university without coming and getting a license. I want Oxford, Cambridge, all the Ivy League schools to have to come to the historically Black colleges, bend the knee, kiss the ring, and pay homage if they want to participate in the future of aviation. I've discovered 4 supersymmetrical systems and patented it. The platonic solids are a thing called discrete symmetry. You have to align them in particular ways in order for them to work. They don't have supersymmetry. You can't put the octahedron, the dodecahedron, the icosahedron, and the tetrahedron or the hexahedron in a room without them and have them fit perfectly. But all of my supersymmetrical systems can work together, even though they define different aspects of pressure and motion conditions. So the good thing, they'll hold out as long as they can, but they'll be teaching obsolete things as soon as we start producing these at the historically Black colleges and universities. And we will be able to advance because nobody will be able to touch it unless they come and get a license and kiss the damn ring.
Pucker up. I almost said a cuss word, pucker up. But that's legit. And I mean, y'all, please take this seriously because this is real. You know, we're not just up here reciting scripts and things of that nature. This is legit and verifiable. This is verifiable. And so, you know, so as you're talking, I had a flashback to when you were on the set, you were in the Caribbean somewhere, and you were still on the set of The Best Man. Was it
Dominican
Barbados?
Republic.
Okay, he was in the DR.
Yeah.
I tried to carry your bags, but you know, they wouldn't let me on the plane. So this brother was in the DR shooting a movie, and my phone rings, and it's FaceTime audio, turn the camera on, and this brother's in the Caribbean. He started opening up these drawers and pulling out these models that he's putting together in between scenes. This is how dedicated and devoted this brother is to this work. I'm like, man, Terrence, if you don't get out there and get some of that sunshine.
No.
But he was so excited about the opportunity to come to Morgan State University to talk about this stuff.
Well, what I discovered at that point was
right.
the linchpin. It rebuilt the periodic table.
That's what he was on. He found
and
new
I
elements.
could define every element,
Yeah.
the geometric structure of every single element. So what that will mean for material engineering is everything. It's everything. And this is the linchpin, mind you, is the constitution between the micro and the macro. I've defined the micro with the wave conjugations, and that's the electric field, and patented that. And I've defined the macro as the magnetic field, the expansive field, and how it unfolds. I've patented all of those basic unfolds. And the constitution between them is the linchpin that is the communicator between all of that. So it's and that's the stuff I was able to show at Morgan State.
That's right.
To the chemists and the physicists that couldn't shoot it down.
That's right.
They couldn't shoot it down, and that was a good feeling.
And after a point, I mean, from the beginning, the beautiful thing is that they came in good faith. And they came, you know, honestly as scientists and as researchers, asking questions and seeking. And some tried to poke and find a loophole, and they couldn't. And after that, they relaxed and turned into students. Relaxed and turned into students. I mean, brother, so when you were discovering all those different elements, also remember that because there are 2 ways. As a matter of fact, on set that day, we were on set, and this brother, he just said, hold on, I'll be right back. He went over to this bookshelf, you know, and went to the top of the bookshelf and pulled down this little like lunch bag thing, opened it up, and it was a plastic container, and it had these 2 shapes. And at the time, I had no idea what these shapes were. They were linchpins, and they had little magnets on them. He said, "Hold
on, let me explain." Okay, the linchpin to you guys. The basic structure of reality of what we see is based off of a thing called the tetrahedron. It's what happens when 4 bubbles meet. It's the highest pressure that can ever occur. It's the first moment of reality. It's the definition of hydrogen. It's the hydrogen proton. It's the proton. It's the beginning. It's the fractal. Well, the linchpin is an expansion of that. The linchpin is what happens when 4 bubbles meet, and it's also what happens when 6 pentagons come together. Now imagine this. In 6,000 years of our knowledge, no one had ever put 6 pentagons together according to having them all meet at the same point. How is that possible? when pentagons have been a part of everything. And I had to recognize that it was the creator that was blocking them because it wasn't their time. It was for this time. It was for now.
Wow.
You know, because I have in my book, you can go to page 118 in my book, and you'll see Da Vinci trying to open the flower of life.
Yeah.
And here he's trying to define some little area of it, one small area of it. And he could never get it because he was held back by the straight lines. But I was able to do it with the Aubryan pieces, putting 20 of them down and finish the work that Da Vinci couldn't do. And that's my only thing I'm going to brag about. I beat Da Vinci in that.
Terrence Howard beat Da Vinci. You heard him right. And he's not playing. That's the point, man. I want people.
Page 118 in my book, tcotlc.com.
I heard.
Go to page 118 and you'll see it. And then go to page
book.
134 and you'll also be able to tap on the wave conjugations, the web application. And there's an app there that allow you to see how the flower of life was supposed to be open, because that's where this came from.
Right.
It came from me opening the flower of life because 6,000 years ago, they opened the flower of life based upon straight lines. They took straight lines where the circles overlapped and they averaged the spaces. They approximated the energy lines. All of our math is based upon approximations, unrealistic things. And that's why they're angry at me, because I'm upsetting their cart. But in order for us to advance to a level 1 society, a level 1 civilization, we have to abandon the lie. No matter how attached to it we are, no matter how much, if you find out that the foundation of your house is about to crack and you've got many, many stories of generations on top of it, you pull all those people out and you fix that foundation.
Yeah.
They don't want to do that with our math.
So let it crumble instead.
They would rather let us die.
So,
and I'm here. I don't care what happens. I'm here to bring the truth at whatever cost that comes with it. But the truth is here. That's why I put the book out for free. tcotlc.com.
And it's a dope book, well thought out, interactive. Like you said, there's apps within the book that you click on links, click on highlighted hyperlinks.
Anytime you see one of those green clovers, tap on it and it will take you to supplemental information.
You're going down a rabbit hole.
But I leave it like that. I just want them out there so they can understand. You want to check it out. If you find a lie in there, throw the book away. Never look at it again. But if it's telling the truth, share it with someone.
Roll with it. So he handed me these 2 linchpins. He handed me these 2 linchpins. I had no idea what these things were, but they were magnetic. He said, play around with those for a minute. He went back and shot another scene. And so there were 2 different ways you could put these together.
Yes.
And I didn't know that. So I'm messing around. I said, oh, wow, click. And they stuck together. I said, wow. Then I took them apart again. It was click. They stuck together another way. But both ways, I could literally feel the difference in the 2. Again, I had no idea what these things were. I just know that Terrence went to this bookshelf, brought me these little funny looking plastic things. I'm being facetious, of course. He was brilliant. And I was like, wow, man, I can actually feel it. He just kind of nodded like that. And that was my introduction to the linchpin.
Yeah, there's 2 forces that's at work in the universe. You have one of 2 directions. You can either spin to the left, which is magnetic. Magnetism seeks a lower pressure condition. It's always spinning out, seeking a lower pressure. It spins southwesterly. You know, the solar wind spins magnetically. It tells you that this is all a magnetic action, even though we've been lied to and told that magnetism is an attractive force. To magnify something means to make it larger, to increase its size. That's the work of radiation. Electricity is the thing that draws 2 things together. It's the electricity between you and the curtain that draws the curtain to you, and you and your pants that draws the pants to your legs. The electricity shortens the distance, but electricity spins to the right, and it spins northeasternly, seeking a higher pressure condition. It's trying to get to the apex, whereas magnetism is spinning outward. So with the linchpins, you can either put them together where you collapse a dodecahedron in the center, where you create it's an electric bond, or you can expand and create the dodecahedron in the center, and you have a magnetic bond, because magnetism expands in the center and pushes out. So that's what you were doing, and you could feel the difference inside of it.
And so And with that, you said it's super symmetric. And going back to what you were saying about the platonic solids, like you could put a bunch of them in a room and you cannot just connect them willy-nilly.
No.
But with your shapes,
you can.
No matter
Everything.
the configuration, they're going to connect.
As long as they're the same size or similar size, there will be a symmetry, a super symmetry about them. I should have sent the video over to you so you could throw it up, but they'll see it.
Because this brother's got all shapes, you know.
Yeah, they're all shapes, which is the magnetic field. I call them the mirror shapes.
The mirror shape, nice.
And the wave conjugations are the electric field. But the linchpins, depending on whether 4 of them bond, if 4 of them come together, it's a magnetic bond because they have this dodecahedron, but they still, after 4 of them come together, you have still a tetrahedral shape. Then you put 4 of those together, it makes another larger tetrahedral shape. If you take the 5, if they're a planar 5 in an electric field, the planar 5 will keep bonding with other 5s. You can bond them also with a tetrahedral 5, which is an electric thing. And it keeps creating these predictable structures, not chaotic structures, predictable structures that's actually telling us of the nature of the universe and how everything actually works and fits together. And that's what the linchpins are able to fly and bond and have unlimited bonding. Nobody's ever been able to bond flying vehicles more than 2, and now I'm able to bond thousands of them.
Infinite number. Wow.
And have them do the work. We should show some of the linchpin so they could see it.
Put a video of the linchpin up.
It played already.
Yeah, we had a bit of it playing.
Oh,
we
good.
were talking about it earlier.
Good, because so they got to see the 4 and the 5 and all of that stuff. So it's the end of the supply chain problem, because now we can offload boats while they're out at sea.
Right.
They don't have to go to the port. Wow. And the first country that gets 10 million linchpins will rule the world because you cannot stop them. The linchpins can be this small, or they can be as large as the universe, because the entire universe is built off of them. I put the linchpin in the solar apex.
What does this mean?
And solar apex is where the sun is. It predicted every star on the galactic plane, every star on the celestial plane, every star on the ecliptic plane.
This was in a simulator.
Yes.
Okay.
This is we actually have we built an app for it.
Okay, it's an
and
app.
It predicts, and this is a 3-dimensional image projected against a 2-dimensional image, but it predicts every single star, and you can expand it where the points meet, and you can see and when we put multiple linchpins, bonded linchpins, it predicted entire constellations and where moons go. So the whole Heisenberg uncertainty stuff about not knowing where something is going, that's out the window. Everything is predictable. It predicts all distribution of matter.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. And I initially I can say I invented it, but I didn't invent it. You can't invent that which makes the universe. I discovered the linchpin and tried to introduce it as the grand unified field equation, expressed in geometry. It's everything, but they didn't want to take it seriously. So I was like, okay, I'll put props in the areas where the pentagons are, and I'll produce tangential flight. I didn't know that people didn't know how to fly around your center of mass. And I'd never flown a drone before. I've never done any of that, but I'd seen all of this as a finished product. So that's,
wow.
They dismissed that. And now here I am, an Oscar-nominated actor, Golden Globe-nominated actor, SAG winner, face recognition all around the world. You don't hear nothing about the fact that I've introduced and invented a new form of flight.
Legitimate.
Nothing about it. If I was a white guy that invented a paper clip, it'd be all over the news. Oh my God, look at him. Look at the paper. It's new, like nobody. It's crickets and dismissive, which is great because that's what we've always had to face.
That's right.
And so we fight it and we gain our strength as a result of that fight. And that's made the Black race a stronger race than anybody out there because of what we have endured. There's other races that's been in captivity or been down and held back for maybe 5 years, for 10 years. Yeah. Nobody has gone through what we've gone through. For 450 40 plus years.
Yep.
And that's just here in America, not to mention where else we were at,
Right.
but we still managed to survive.
Perfect segue into, you've got a very interesting perspective and solution for the reparations question.
Yes.
Talk on that a little bit, bro, man.
Well, here our ancestors, the descendants of slaves, built this country for 400 plus years. Never got a wage for it. We were kidnapped, murdered, breaking of the buck. They destroyed our nature. And for 400 years, we didn't get paid. So since they don't want to give us and don't have the money for reparations, then since our ancestors built this country and wasn't paid, then we should have the next 400 years without taxes. So we can now reinvest in our community. The Black community will now become an opportunity zone that other communities will invest in. And as a result, you'll have so much more innovation and the entire country will grow and the karma is paid off. Since you cannot give us the reparations that we deserve, that you've given everybody else, then don't give us taxes. We should be tax-free for over 400 years, any descendant of slaves. And then we're good. And we can build our community back. But that might be too simple of a solution. But if everybody out there starts talking about the reasonableness of that and demand it, we win. Then if they come and kill me for saying it, it doesn't matter because all of you are still carrying it forward. It's just a simple truth.
Terrence, if you could snap your fingers and change anything you wanted to change, what would it be, brother?
I would remind every human being that they are not just made in God's image. When they look in the mirror, they should see the Creator. And when the Creator looks in the mirror, they should see them. And as long as they recognize that divinity within self, they'll be fine. They can move forward without any problems. Once you recognize that there is no such thing as death, that life eternal cannot die. You know, even the polyester that probably makes up this material, it's still carbon. It's still vibrating at the key of E. It's still breathing in and breathing out. That's the vibration. That's that Browning effect is the vibration from it polarizing from positive to negative. Positive polarization happens when you breathe in. That's a masculine thing. It's an electric charging. The feminine is the discharging, expanding. It expands out. So the breathing in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. All these things are alive. There's no death. It's just a transition. And once you recognize that, this life becomes fun because you can do anything because it's not forever, but life is forever. You can't tell me that this is your first lifetime.
Right.
There's nobody in here that could even imagine that this is their first lifetime. We've been here from the very beginning because we're made from the very source of the Creator and the universe as a whole. God is not outside the universe in some strange place. The universe, all of us make up God. We are all the Creator collectively. We all have that power. And that's what Christ was talking about. Once you recognize that divinity, now everything that you interact with, you see God in it. And so you have a common frame of reference. You have a common factor, and it talks to you. It shares its secrets with you. Nature, Walter Russell said something really brilliant. He said, nature is a very jealous God. She only speaks to you when you are alone, and she whispers. She whispers. You have to be silent and shut off the noise.
See, that's why I call Terrence, I often call you the modern day George Washington Carver. But the difference is you did the patent work. He didn't want to. He actually declined it. And other people got buku rich off of his work. You, and this iteration of you, this version of you, this incarnation of you, said, you know what? I got it this time.
This is the culmination of many lifetimes.
Wow.
You know, if I could have discovered just the tetraene by itself, it would have been more than anybody has ever discovered.
Yeah.
But to discover the tetraene, the huntian, to discover where 4 bubbles meet, where 8 bubbles meet, where 6 bubbles meet, where 12 bubbles meet, or 24 bubbles meet, all of those things, and to define the magnetic field and the thing in between it, the Constitution, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. And I can't say I discovered it in that sense, because as a child, I would wake up inside my dream and there was this being that was there, and it would walk with me and I couldn't see its face. It had its hand on top of my head, and we were like going through this electrum, this river of electrum, and it said to me, you know, if you could have anything you want, what would it be? And I said, I want to know how everything works. And it opened up a door. And it was this mansion, and there was this crystalline flower, and it's just started handing me these shapes, at 6 years old, 5 years old. And from that moment, I could wake up in my dream, and I would wake up and I would go in that room. And you know what I found out that room is?
What's that?
It was the Library of Alexandria. I can access, and the proof of it, like we talked about earlier, is it's like waking up, it's like getting a dream and finding a diamond in that dream.
Right.
And then you hold on to it tightly, and then you wake up and it's not there. But I woke up and I still had it. It was still there. And that's what the discoveries and the patents are. And it wasn't for me to benefit from it. It's for mankind. It's a freedom.
Yeah.
It's but they don't want it.
Yeah. They don't know to want it. So, okay, in case y'all's minds haven't been blown yet, in case your minds haven't been blown enough, let's go ahead and drop a mic on them. All right, let's destroy the mic real quick with the calculator.
Okay.
So for those of you at home and you got your pocket computers, get your pocket computer out.
If you got an iPhone, it's really great. Just go to your calculator. And you heard me say that 1 × 1 = 2.
You're getting a lot of trouble for saying that.
Let's understand the meaning behind it.
Yep.
If to multiply means to make more, to increase a number, how can 1 × 1 = 1 be part of the multiplication table? Doesn't that cancel out the very first laws of motion? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So I was like, how can 1 × 1 = 1? Well, then I went to the calculator. Oh, my wife. I'll call her in a second. My love. I went to the calculator, and if you go to your calculator, you put 2 in, hit 2.
So you got to turn it
to the side, turn your calculator to the side, hit 2.
All right.
And then go to the square root, which is on the far left, second column, third one from the top.
Okay.
Second one from, third one from the top.
Yep.
You'll see the square root of 2, hit it. It says 1.414-213-562-373-095.
Yep.
Now, I want you to cube it. Hit X to the third.
Which is in the third column.
And I want somebody else to hit ×2.
Okay, so I'm cubing mine.
You cube it, you're going to get 2.828-4271-2174-6190.
Okay.
That's the same value you get when you multiply it by 2. Now do me a favor, divide it by 2. Okay, divide by 2, hit equal, and cube it again. Hit X to the third.
It's 2.
Divide by 2. You get back to 2.828-4271-2174-6190. Divide by 2, hit equal, go back to X to the third. You're going to see this loop. You're going to go back from 1.414-213-562-373-095. You'll be back at 2.828-4271-2174-6190. That's like saying X cubed is equal to 2X, which is equal to X plus X. That's an unnatural equation. But every quantum physics and quantum mechanics theory and equation is based off of that mathematical fallacy, that lie. That's where the matrix, that's where it doesn't fit. And that's just one thing. And that's at the very beginning of our math. So they tried to call me crazy about bringing this up, but it's crazy to think that to multiply, you can have 1 × 1 = 1. And then what about multiplying by 0? How can something times nothing equal nothing. How can my hand go through nothing and disappear? What's happened to the laws of conservation of energy? How can you multiply by 0, but you can't divide by it? You divide by 0, you end up with an infinity. Isn't multiplication an inverse operation of division?
That's what we've been told. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to reintroduce you to the Terrence Deshaun Howard. My brother.
Thank you.
I sure appreciate you, man.
I do too. Thank you for this.
The man.
Thank y'all out there.
BlackDoctors.org. We really appreciate you all for this platform.
Yes, and the gathering spot. Thank y'all for letting us use this space. It's to be able to communicate. But like I said, go to tcotlc.com. You know, tap on the very first page. You're going to see 2 videos before you can even download the book. And each video, I use the same simulator that they use in Princeton, and I rebuilt the planet Saturn without gravity, using linchpins and the vortices from it, proving that gravity is nothing but an effect of electricity. And in the second video, we rebuilt the Milky Way with linchpins, with no gravity, and it predicts the stars and the curvature better than NASA stuff. And then all you have to do is tap on that green clover, and you'll have the book, and just read as you want to go. Any knowledge you want to have, all the secrets that's been hidden from us is yours now.
And we didn't even talk about our meetings with NASA, but that's for another time, y'all. Thank you so much, y'all. Nothing but love and respect for you, brother. Thank you for taking the time out today.
Appreciate it.
BlackDoctors.org, y'all the truth, fam.
Yeah.
Hey, we just want to say I got to go home and just rethink my life right now because of what we just watched. I want to thank everybody here for watching us. Thank you, Terrence, for coming and just blessing us with this conversation. Thank you, Dr. Menzise, for bringing Terrence with you. Thank everybody for watching today for our Men's Health Summit. We had a great heart conversation, and we had a prostate conversation, and then we had
everything else.
Terrence Howard. And so I hope you really, really paid attention. Go back and watch it again. Like, if your mind didn't get it, watch it again. I want to thank the Gathering Spot for hosting us here in Atlanta. Share this with your friends and family, because this is something that we all need to support this man and what he's doing and support his work. We got to.
But let's think about the reparations. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
We have to carry that message forward.
That's one of the better ideas I've seen. I've heard in a long time, you know. And I thought I had a good one, but I'm going to have to rethink that one. So thank you all. Thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. Again, BlackDoctor.org, we're going to try to bring you health and wellness content so you and your family can be the healthiest they can be. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Here.